The only thing good about my friend Randy's boat is here, he don't have to worry about the slow death of not being able to catch any oysters or making the oysters. Hurricane Isaac put him right here. So I don't think she'll ever float again. I've been fishing alongside this man for over 50 years. Our boats are about the same age. And unfortunately, I had the same problem, but I put 40 ropes on my boats, and my ropes held, his didn't. Just show you the luck of the draw. You got to deal with all this kind of stuff, and on top you got people taking your life away because of negligence and oil. Black oil, Texas tea. And unfortunately, the way it worked out, it wasn't as bad as Katrina. Katrina, they had barges here that were helping everybody. I mean, they had hundreds of boats stuck. So they had barges and the Coast Guard helped. Now this time here, the number of boats were minimal, which is a good thing, but it's a bad thing because nobody's gonna get any help. If you got the money to get a crane down here, you might be able to save it. But who's got the money if you can't make any money because of BP? No oysters to catch. Everything revolves, everything's circular. You know, if you have any product, if you have no product whatsoever, you're out. If you have no price, well, you can deal with it, you know? If you got a lot of product and low price, you can deal with it. If you got a little product and a high price, it's the same. But if you got no product, you're done. Or like this case, he's done too. Must have been beating up against here with the waves because the wind come out the southwest after the storm. So it just kept beating it here and beating it here. And she ended up settling right here. Which is better than being on the bottom. To show you the difference, when Katrina rolled through, this place was totally wiped out, okay? Now understand, Isaac was not as bad as Katrina, but it's all improvements on how you build things. All superstructure, everything's cemented in, bolted through, no longer nails, everything's now bolts. Well, the superstructure's here, you know? At least you got something to start rebuilding back. Katrina rolled it. So you learn, you do the best you can, but Mother Nature's a bitch. What you build stronger, she can be stronger. What you're looking at here is the effects of a 12-foot tidal surge and an 80-mile-an-hour hurricane. It's wiped out, totally wiped out the bottom. This used to be our local little store and diner where we'd eat at. Actually, the lady I used to sell my shrimp to. I don't think she's gonna make it back this time. BP had shut her down. They didn't hire her or her dock and all like some other places. So she was already suffering. And she put this place together, so she was holding her own, doing okay. And now she's totally wiped out. They had started rebuilding the dock, but I don't see them getting too much further, so I think she's gonna be a casualty, permanent casualty. And she's been down here, her family's been down here as long as me, that's 50 years.
Yeah, here it all is. This is exactly what the folks down here in Grand Isle have been telling me about ever since the hurricane. It just came and stirred things up and dumped BP's oil back on their beaches. And here it is. It's not the rainbow sheen that we saw two and a half years ago, but that rainbow sheen was caused by the light ends that volatilized and evaporated. This is the heavier stuff now, the heavier oil, and this is what coastal geologist Rip Kirby talks about. He's actually sampled some of this stuff over farther to the east and in Alabama and Mississippi, and this is BP's oil. It's mixed with the dispersant, and here it all is. So it did not go away, which of course the local folks and I knew coming down from Alaska, it didn't go away up there either. It's just taken this form now. Unfortunately, some of the more recent studies have shown that the dispersed oil, the oil plus dispersant, actually was toxic to the very bacteria that are supposed to eat this. And it left the opportunistic bacteria, the Vibrio, which is also an oil-eating bacteria, but that's kind of a bad one. It also eats human skin. What the fishermen are seeing in their catches across the Gulf, I've heard reports, and this is area reports. This is not average Gulf-wide, because you can kind of hide the numbers for the depressed catches if you look at the whole Gulf, kind of average it and make it go away. But the fishermen that are fishing where the oil was offshore have noticed 40 to 50% declines in their shrimp fishery. This is like this year, last year. What we saw in Alaska was that herring, just for example, the herring held on for 4 years, but it was the young of the year that were killed during the oil spill year that actually ended up collapsing the fishery 4 years after the Exxon Valdez. We still do not have our herring fishery back in Prince William Sound, and it's been almost 2.5 decades, going on 24 years now. The worry here is the dispersant. What has it done? Because oil is one thing, but dispersant plus oil, it looks like the whole thing could have a longer shelf life, as you were, like be here longer, be here in the ecosystem, be impacting things longer.
This right here is a tar ball we picked up in the canal a couple of months ago. It floated in the canal by my dock over here. It's one of the largest ones we found yet. But I mean, there's no way that nothing could survive on the bottom with stuff this thick. I mean, how many chemicals do you have to spray to get a liquid to turn into this? I mean, it's ridiculous. They destroyed a way of life down here just so that oil don't show up on TV on somebody's beach. I mean, it would have been easy to clean on the beach. I mean, how could you bring the ecosystem back, you know? It just makes me very upset. You know, they took the easy way out and somebody allowed them to take the easy way out. Out of sight, out of mind. They knew that sooner or later the American public got a short attention span, and they knew if they hid it long enough that the story would go away, and by the time it came back up again, there would be no more story. They've been successful in buying out most of the local press. They've been successful in buying out the national press. We can't get our story on TV. We can't get it out to the public no more.
Every time you have an environmental event, such as a hurricane, you're gonna, because of the oil spill, the combination of the new hurricanes and the oil spill, you're gonna have a resurfacing of the oil. And my only hope it goes to the same place it killed already, because if it goes someplace else, it's going to kill something more. And that's what happens. The oil comes up, and you end up with nothing again. You know, then all of a sudden they say we're not using dispersants anymore, and all of a sudden we hear that the oil's gone again. It seems like Mayday, Mayday, this is happening again. It scares the hell out of me. That, you know, we still proved how bad it was, and we still don't have any control over that. This area right here had 4 foot of water on the road for Isaac, you know. And fortunately, all we saw was mud, you know. We were worried to death there's going to be oil in that mud, you know, but I didn't see any here. Now across the river in Lafitte, it's like an oily muck, and it doesn't ever dry. See, all this mud eventually dried up. So that means they got something in there that is not supposed to be there. But that's the open Gulf. That's where it's rolling up from. Here, you're inland here. You're further inland than across the river, you know, and those are the areas that were worst impacted, you know. So why they keep saying that, oh, it's okay. You count it as a blessing nowadays. Before, you never had to worry about oil after a hurricane. All you had to worry about is, did my boat make it? Did I get it in the harbor? Who lived, who survived? Did my camp there? You know, did my fishing ground okay? Now you gotta say, is my fishing ground okay because of what may be there from some other problem 2.5 years ago. You know, it's another contingent part that's killing people from the inside out, not physically, mentally. I don't have a crystal ball. And the problem is there's a lot of scientists that make speculation that it'd be, oh, it's a year, 2 years, 6 months. Nobody can say that with any certainty, as time has shown us. All those ones that say it would be okay by now, they're scratching their head. Well, maybe I was wrong. We don't know. Maybe you were wrong. We have no baby oysters. You know, shrimp production, like I said, is sporadic. It's not as good. Now, it's better away from the spill, so what would that cause you to believe? It had a negative impact, but they didn't want to admit that. So the future is up to God, and God's got to fix what BP screwed up, and the government let them get away with it. So God's got to fix that, you know. And as we go to church, and we always say prayers before our meetings, we ask God to fix it, because we need some divine intervention, because BP is not going to step up. And there's certain things that even if they had all the money in the world, you might not be able to fix it. Now you start getting problems with the genetic pool and the breeding cycle and stuff like that. They don't have enough money to fix that. That's a gulf. That's areas that we fished for miles and miles and miles all our life, and some of it's just not productive anymore. Don't know why.
Well, we're well past 2 years after the start of this disaster, and what we're seeing now is, as much as we were saying 2 years ago this oil wasn't going to disappear, the oil hasn't disappeared. So much as BP is saying that they've done everything right, that they're making the Gulf cleaner than ever, that's not in fact the case. We had Hurricane Isaac come through very recently, and that showed how much oil BP still had out there in the ecosystem. It pushed a lot of oil into our beaches, into our marshes, into barrier islands. And so BP, instead of saying, yikes, yeah, a lot of our oil's out there, we're going to keep on cleaning this up, they put out a PR front to say, you know what, mostly the beach areas were free of oil. But they used an odd term I hadn't ever heard before. It was amenity beaches, which I thought about it a little bit more, and what that basically means is areas where we've got bars and there are lifeguard stands, there's not a lot of oil showing up. But in the areas that don't have a lot of people going through them, which is most of Louisiana's marsh and beach areas, there's new oil there. There's oil showing up in wide swaths of that. So when they shut down 13 miles of beach in the wake of Hurricane Isaac to clean up more BP's oil, hard to say that most of their oil's gone and they're not having an impact. BP made a huge announcement at the 1 year mark of their disaster. They said, we're going to make things right in the Gulf. We're going to put $1 billion towards early restoration of this ecosystem because we value it so much. That was at the 1 year mark. Since then, the 2 year mark has happened. We're closing in on looking at what would happen in the 3 year mark, and they haven't spent $1 billion. They said they wanted to get the projects on the ground the first 2 years after that announcement. They have so far committed to under $70 million worth of projects. So if you're looking at $1 billion and you've spent less than $70 million, we're less than 10% of what you have committed to. So that's, I think, what's most outrageous is the kind of the fact that the PR that BP is putting out does not match up with the reality. So we think BP needs to kind of either be honest and quit taking credit for stuff they're not really doing in the PR world, or really come to the table and start seriously committing to making the Gulf right and making the restoration happen on a realistic timetable.
Everything I catch and produce, like right after the spill, I didn't catch any of my oysters. I was scared because oysters don't filter feeder. And the more I looked at it, the more after a year went by, because we closed it as a precaution. They closed the whole state. Now the shrimp was a little different. Shrimp are transient. Shrimp run. They can run away from it. Oysters can't. But as time progressed, I started eating them myself. I didn't get sick. With the oysters, I started eating raw oysters again. It's addiction. If I don't get my oysters in the morning, I need them. But it's to say what's going to be good, what's going to produce. It's just the luck of the draw, the bad luck, unluck of the draw. Who got impacted, who didn't. They want to make you believe with all their $149 million worth of commercials that it didn't have an effect. Oh, it's clean, it's done, it's over with. It might be done over for the tourist business because they're doing pretty good. And they still selling our shrimp at a cheaper price, so they're doing a little better. They're getting shrimp at a cheaper price, and they got all these tourists coming because all that money BP spent for them commercials. But that's not helping me. The guy who was first impacted and worst impacted is the one getting screwed again, getting left out the equation. The problem, once again, is with the perception. The perception that everything's bad or everything's good. And if you assume everything's good and then somebody gets sick, well, then that's not right either. So the areas that were worst impacted, they don't have any production anyway, so we're staying out of it. It by itself, by the devastation, keeps you out of it anyway. But the problem is, like off of Grand Isle, what happened to them boats? They had to go east, they had to go west. People like Mr. Blanchard ain't buying 40% of what he used to buy. You can't run and maintain a business like that. You know, I'm catching 60% of what I used to catch at a 30% price reduction. Can't make it. And they making more money when the fuel goes up. They charge me more for the diesel. Like they catch back what they lost. It's an equation for disaster for the industry.
Basically, what you're looking at, see these shrimp, they all got tumors right here. Got little tumors coming out the sides right here. But basically, the eggs used to come on the back side of the shrimp. We don't see no eggs back here. We're seeing stuff coming out the gills. Now, whether this is just from them breathing through here, but I mean, this shrimp is deformed. His head's like swole up. I mean, this is not what a normal shrimp should look like. And I mean, they're all the same. Look, they got a flat, big fat head. We got some with no eyes. Got some with one eye. I mean, this one here has no eyes at all. It swole his head so much, it looked like his eyeballs fell off.
And is this the same stuff that people are putting into production and selling?
Oh yeah, the government say everything's all right. Nothing wrong with this. I mean, nothing wrong with this according to the government, you know? I mean, it's, I don't know. I spend many sleepless nights having to sell some of this stuff. We try to pick out the ones that's deformed, but I mean, we can't get them all. But I mean, I'm just waiting for somebody to start suing us. It's just a matter of time. I mean, and not even worried about somebody suing us. I mean, I just don't want to get nobody sick, you know? It's a tough situation, I can tell you that much, very tough, you know?
I think there are economic and political considerations that are coming to bear here. And I think if there wasn't, there would be a far more widespread kind of acknowledgement that yes, there are questions here. Questions remain. How come no one's going to go on the record and talk about the tumor-ridden shrimp? Why is there not folks from the FDA kind of front and center talking about what's actually going on? These agencies that have done the testing, they say everything's fine. But then the coastal communities who see the shrimp say, holy crap, it's not fine. So people are just left in a very uncertain world. And it is, I think, you've got people between a rock and a hard place because they need to sell the shrimp to stay alive, or they need to put all their hope into a future settlement with BP that makes them whole until the shrimp look clean again. So I think a lot of these guys, they're going to eat it themselves. They're going to try to keep the worst of the stuff off the market, and they're going to cross their fingers. And I think that's, I just hate the fact that there are people that are in that situation. To us, it's really alarming here. Everyone wants to put this behind them. They're like, oh yeah, we dodged a bullet, everything's fine. A researcher out of Florida said this, and I think it's just great. It's like, we did not dodge a bullet. We got shot. But we are still trying to figure out how bad the injury is.
It's not a money thing. I mean, this is a generation thing. This is a way of life. This is a culture. This is something that we grew up doing. This is something we love doing. And this is something that we won't be able to do no more for the rest of our life. There's no price tag on this. It's not a money thing. I mean, what I like to see, I don't care if they'd ever pay me a penny. Just go out there and clean it up and let's get back to where we were before.